also part of the class. Okay, once this is done, the next level that we have the ability, this is completely new. If you worked in the past, this is a newer feature compared to the other one. This is called advanced malware protection, popularly known as AMP. What is AMP? Let's again analyze what each product is doing. You have the firewall. We already discussed it's going to say which server will have what service. So let's say 192.1.100.1 should only receive packets for what? 80 and 443. I have another policy on the firewall that says this IP address should receive traffic, I believe was for DNS, and I had another IP which said it would only receive traffic for TFTP. Then I had the IPS box right behind it. So when the traffic was allowed, before it went into the into your servers, before I went into the servers, I had the ability to check on IPS the network traffic or network attacks. So it checks network traffic against a well-known signature database. What does the signature database contain? Patterns of well-known attacks. It will check the characteristic at layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, not layer 1, sorry, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, all the way to layer 7. It checks characteristics of a packet. If it's a malicious packet, it can drop it. Now, the problem with this is sometimes what you do is in that packet, you have an attachment. Let's say a PDF file is coming through or an exe file is coming through. The well-known attack does not, it'll see a PDF file, it'll see an exe file, but that can be a normal file. The IPS does not have the ability by itself to check the validity to see if the file is infected by a malware. So the functionality of AMP is to check the actual file that is getting downloaded. Whereas the IPS works on the network header, and sees if the network header is an example of a well-known attack. The AMP looks at the contents of the file and checks for any malware that has been detected over here, like an antivirus. Everybody okay with that? You guys understand what this is doing? That's the functionality of AMP. AMP checks.
AMP is included in the IPS, or it is a separate device?
Now, you can either get a license for it, or you can buy a separate VM for it.
Okay.
It depends on how you want to do it. So it's more of a license rather than anything else with AMP. But you do have the ability to buy a separate box for AMP if you want to. And this all becomes a little bit more clear as we go into another device I'll bring up in a bit. You guys are okay with this though? You understand that? But it's a license. You can get it in your IPS and invoke the license over there as well for AMP. Now, let me write that down for you guys. So AMP is what? It is a product that allows you to check the files that are being sent over the network for the existence of malware within the file. Do you understand the levels now? First, it just checked whether the packet is allowed to come into the server or not. Next, in the IPS, it checked whether the packet that's coming in, the network headers, are they an example of a well-known network attack? AMP checks the files that are getting downloaded. So if you want complete security, you have the ability to have these 3 different levels that you need to have. Everybody okay with that? So you guys have the ASA 9.x, you have the NG next generation IPS, which is your source fire, which has been named to what? Firepower. And then you have the checking of your file contents for malware, which is called AMP. Now there is another AMP. This is a network AMP. There's also an AMP known as endpoint AMP. Endpoint AMP is where you actually install the software on the PC itself, like an antivirus, anti-malware software where on the end device. That's called endpoint AMP. This AMP is not endpoint AMP. I'm not installing anything on the end devices. Instead, I'm sitting in the middle, checking the file for any type of what? Malware existence within the file. Does that make sense? So before the packet is even allowed to hit the endpoint, I will check the contents. So you have 3 levels: firewalling, IPS, and AMP. Everybody okay with that? So if I had to draw it out, three different products. Where's the delete? Okay. This was your NG-IPS. I'll just give it the Cisco name. This is your next generation IPS. Okay. Now the third one over here is called AMP. Now there's no extra name for it or anything like that. It's just called AMP, and this is, I'll call it malware protection. You guys okay with this? So 3 separate products. You guys good with this? So we will take a look at all 3. Good? Now, Cisco also sells another product. Which is known as FTD. Firepower, Threat Defense. What is this? This is a separate box. What is a firepower threat defense, also commonly known as FTD? It's another appliance. And to be honest with you, this is your future. What have they done with the firepower threat defense FTD device? Basically what they've done is they've included in the same box the firewalling, IPS functionality, and the malware protection. In what? A single box known as FTD. Now this box, each one of these, the 9.x, Firepower, and AMP run a different iOS. Each one has its own iOS. With the FTD, it runs a unified iOS. that basically gives it the capability of doing all three. What do I mean by all three? It gives you the firewalling capability, it gives you the IPS capability, it gives you the malware capability, all built into one, a single box. Everybody okay with that? You guys understand what I'm trying to get to? So just in case you were confused in terms of what is ASA 9.x, what is FTD, basically the functionality of the firewalling is included in this newer device known as FTD. And get used to this device. This is your future. Eventually, what's going to happen is your firewall and the NGIPS and the malware protection by themselves are going to go away. Instead, you're going to have one device called the FTD. And FTD is going to be your new next generation firewall, IPS, malware, all in the same device. Now, you might say, well, what if in the future a client, a customer, doesn't want one functionality? Well, when he buys the appliance, whether he buys a physical appliance or he can even buy FTD as a virtual appliance. Virtual appliance, basically, they give you the same software, but you install it under VMware, ESXi. All right? So when you do that, let's say the customer only wants to have firewalling capabilities. Although it's the same box, you only acquire the license for firewalling. So on FTD, if you just want to use it as a firewall, you have the capability of doing that. You just pay less money and just get the license for firewall. But let's say 6 months down the lane, you want to upgrade and want to get the IPS capability as well. You can add that license to it. As soon as you install the license, that IPS functionality opens up. Or for that matter, if you want to, a year from now, say, no, malware protection is another good thing that I want to buy. I didn't have the budget earlier on, now I want to buy it. I can add that license as well. So coming back to your question, are they work as modules? Can they be working, can you have FTD work as a separate module by itself? Yes, you can, based on licenses. So on the FTD, you can work them as individuals, or you can buy all the licenses in the same one. It's the same physical box that you use, whereas using 3 separate boxes. So the future, in reality, what I would suggest that you do is get used to the FTD, because in the future, you're going to have that. Having said that, knowledge of 9.x, Firepower, or AMP, essential, because today, it is still heavy, it's used a lot. What about the CP usage of FTD if all are working together? Now, when you buy it, when you buy the box, they will give you the specs. Now, based on the specs of your hardware, is the number of packets that you're going to be allowed to flow through it. So it's entirely up to you how much traffic do you want to push through the FTD. That will be on your data sheet. If you want this amount of, let's say you want the performance of 1 gigabits per second, how much CPU and memory do you need on that box? Or do you want to buy the appliance for that? Because don't forget, FTD can also be sold as an appliance. Everybody okay with that? Now, the next thing, which is also very important to understand over here, you guys understand this firepower threat defense over here. So I'll put this down for you guys. And by the way, I'm not just talking about it. All these things that I'm talking about over here, you guys will be learning this. Firepower, threat defense, popularly known as FTD, combines the capabilities combines the firewalling, IPS, and AMP capabilities into a single device, physical or logical or virtual. You guys understand that? So you can either buy it as a virtual image, or you can buy it as a physical box. You will take a look at the same things over here. So what are the things that you'll do over here as well? Basic configuration. Policy control. So policy control will show you what type of files, what do you want to do with it. Combines the capability of the virtual of firewalling, IPS and AMP into one. We'll do the basic configuration. The good thing is, if you've done them individually, when you do it over here in the firepower, it's the same. It's just on one box. There are subtle differences, especially for the firewalling part of it. As we go through it, I will show you that. So we'll do firewalling, we'll do IPS policies, and we'll do AMP policies.
Sir, I have one question. While we using the FTD, there will be only one interface, only for one interface for all devices, for the three devices for one network, or
when you talk about the interface in terms of the physical interface, or are you talking about the what do you call it, the interface as a graphical user interface?
yeah, graph not while we need to connect the interfaces, physical interfaces. So how many
The
physical
network interfaces, right?
yeah, network interfaces.
That depends on how you want to do it. Let's say you buy a appliance. Appliance comes with multiple interfaces. You can dedicate interfaces for firewalling, and you can dedicate different interfaces for IPS. Malware does not require a separate interface because malware and AMP go hand in hand. Now, if you buy the virtual image, that depends on your virtual machine manager, VMM, whether it's ESXi or you're using Hyper-V. How do you want to allocate the interfaces? Because in those type of setups, you don't have physical interfaces that are allocated. They're all done based on VNIX. So technically, it could have been one VNIC that you're using when you're doing virtual. Physical, you will have multiple interfaces. Does that answer your question? So
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Depends on how you get it. Now, at the same time, the other question that I brought up for, remember when you said interface, I asked you, what do you mean by interface? Do you mean the network interface or the graphical user interface? The management aspect of it is done by another appliance called the Fireside Management and Console, also known as FMC. It is an appliance again, it can be bought as physical or virtual that will manage all the devices from a single console. So basically what it allows you the ability to do is, whether you have this portion where you have what? 3 separate devices, or you have FTD, or you have multiple FTDs. What you do have the ability to do, what you need to do is you need to get what is known as the FMC. What is the FMC? FMC is your management console. All right? It allows you the ability to manage all these devices from a central location. So you can manage your FTD or multiple FTDs. Maybe you have multiple FTDs within your network. You can manage all the policies from a single FMC. Similarly, your older NG-IPS, it also has the ability to be managed through the FMC. Okay, you guys understand that? So even this one, the old firewall, can be managed by what? So everything is done where? In a centralized management system where you don't just have the new ones, but also the old ones in a centralized console, managing all the devices. Everybody okay with that? You understand what FMC does for you? I've thrown a lot of acronyms at you today. But now when you read all the documentation, when you go and read the blueprint of all the different courses, you will now be able to understand what are the different devices that you'll be learning.
Sir, right now it is so much, so many things is there. So actually, the FMC is used only for means we can control the firewall, NGIPS, AMP through a one devices. Am I right?
One console, yes, correct.
One console.
Yeah.
Yeah. So through this FMC we can access, that is graphical user, means
That is correct.
GUI.
That is correct.
Okay, so okay. Sir, it is making so many complex. Like, am I right? Cisco is making so much complication for us.
But that's good for you, man. You want to get a job? That's the best thing. If they make it easy, then nobody hires you.
Yeah, true.
It's good. It's bad for people that don't want to learn.
Yeah, but it's so much confusion. So that is why I was just at FMC and all these things. So
But
that is what.
now that you know it, you understand this.
Yeah.
If you
Yes,
understand
I
that,
understand.
more power to you.
Yeah.
You understand what
We
I'm saying? And I'm gonna make
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna make sure you understand these type of things, because that's exactly what I want to do over here.
Okay,
It is tough when you read the documentation. Now go back, read the documentation. You'll understand what they're talking about. Before, when you read the documentation, it said FTD, they're doing firewalling. So what is ASA 9.x? Some people will come back to me, you know what, 9.x and FTD is the same thing. No, it's not. It's a completely different iOS.
Yeah.
You understand that? But now that you know
Yes.
this, it is easy.
Yes. Yeah.
But having
So
said
we
that, I
can.
just want you guys to understand one thing clearly. The future is definitely going to be what? This thing over here,
Threat difference.
the FTD, because that's what they're moving towards. Everything is moving towards this guy. So this one eventually, this one eventually, this one eventually will go away, and you'll have FTD because it has all those functionalities. And what if you don't want to buy this and this? No problems. Don't enable the license for it. So this is what the future is. Having said that, you still have a lot of this in the industry. This is still being sold. So you need to know this one as well as that one. And guess what? I'm going to show you that. That's what I'm here for. Good?
Yes. Sir, one more thing I want to ask. If in the FTD, while we configuring the Firepower Threat Defense, okay, while we enable all three license, we can get through FMC, we can get each ASA firewall like that Firepower, and IPS is on the separate window, AMP on the separate window. Am I right? Through the FMC.
When you
Am I
go
right?
into the FMC, there is a tab that is called device management. I'll show you that. Don't get into that because that's getting more into the actual configuration. But just to give you an idea, under device management, you would see your ASA1. You might have more than one ASA. You might have two ASAs. You might have more than one FTD in your network.
Yes.
So everything will be under your devices. So if you want to configure ASA1, you click on it and you go into the policies for ASA1. You want to configure FTD1, you go over here and can start configuring it. So it's like a console that will not only have one device, it'll have multiple devices. And you go into the appropriate device and start configuring the policies for it. That's the whole beauty of it. You don't need to go jump in from one console to the other console to manage all these devices. You have a complex network, you have hundreds of devices all managed through the same console.
Okay. Okay. So actually, the FTD can handle multiple firewall, multiple IPS, and multiple malware protection. Am I right?
FMC can handle multiple.
Yeah.
Not FTD. FTD is its own firewall.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, sir.
So let's say you had a complex network, just to give you an idea. You have a complex network where you have multiple entry points into your network. Guess what? You can deploy an FTD over here as the box that protects you from this side. You can have another FTD over here blocking maybe another partner coming through MPLS. Maybe this is the internet, maybe this is your MPLS VPN type of setup. All are coming into this guy over here. But in terms of the management, these guys have is they have a separate interface, which is a management interface. The green interface I'm showing you is your management interface, and they connect into a network where your FMC resides. And your managers log into your FMC. They have access to FTD1, FTD2 to manage it. So this is your FMC that manages your FTDs. Maybe a company has one FTD and the other one is an old legacy. Old legacy is not that old, but it's got 9.x. It doesn't have FTD. So both can be managed over here. Or for that matter, this one also has IPS, firepower. All right, I can manage that also through the app. All these things will become clearer. My main objective over here is not to go detail into how it's managing it, but the functionality of the devices. You need to understand what a particular device is. All right, guys, can you shut the music off? All right, you understand that? So I need you guys to be aware of what the device is and what the functionality of the device is. Clear?